Talk's Retail Fast Five. Today's episode is brought to you in partnership with the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, Avalara, Williot, TGW, and Sezzle. Ranked in the top 10% of all podcasts globally and currently ranked the #1 podcast in all of retail by FeedSpot, the Retail Fast Five is the podcast that we hope makes you feel a little smarter, but most importantly, a little happier each week too. And the Fast Five is just one of the many great podcasts you can find from Omni Talk Retail, alongside our Retail Daily Minute, which brings you a curated selection of the most important retail headlines every morning, and our Retail Technology Spotlight podcast series, which goes deep each week on the latest retail technology trends. Today is May 15th, 2024. I'm one of your hosts, Ann Mazenga.
And I'm one of your other hosts, Chris Walton.
And we're here once again to discuss and debate the most important headlines from the past week. But joining us today, Chris, we have a special guest to debate and discuss those most important headlines. And that is Shop Talk's VP of Original Content and Strategy, the one and only Ben Miller. Ben, welcome back to Omni Talk and to the Fast Five.
Oh, hey, good. Great to see you both. And thank you for having me back. This is a real honor.
Yeah,
it's always a blast. Love having you on, Ben. It's so much fun.
It is. Yes, we're excited. We're going to be seeing you in a few weeks in Barcelona for Shop Talk Europe. We cannot wait. But I have to first break, Ben, because we were talking a little bit before the show. We got tons of feedback last week about our Starbucks story. So, Ben, I know you have a take on Starbucks here and what we were talking about last week, the whole mobile order versus, still having the third space in stores. What, if you will, quickly give us is the European take on the Starbucks dilemma.
I'm so pleased that it's been talked about, and I'm so pleased that you're covering it. Yes, because Starbucks has become a harder and harder place to buy a coffee from. So, look, the merchant in me, in one way, despairs, and the other way feels quite sorry for the staff at the moment. The offer in a US Starbucks has become so complex now that it's crying out for range rationalization, because the basic mission of going in to buy a coffee and getting a coffee quickly in the majority of metro areas or in busy times in the US is now really hard to do. And I think I'm glad it's being talked about. Starbucks feels, and Chris, you were making the point last week about it's no longer the third place. I think there's a real question about what's he trying to be. And I'm really pleased to have that conversation, because the customer experience is a long way from where it was. And that could be okay. But if it is, that 100% opens up the opportunity for somebody else to just be able to give you a really good cup of coffee quickly.
Yeah, 100%. The other part of the story that I didn't think about last weekend when we were talking about it too, that hit me like a hammer in the face this week, is it's also a time of the day issue, right? Like, so you have different periods of time where people are in the store in the Starbucks for different reasons as well. And so, you've got to figure out one process that works for everything. So it's a very complicated situation that Starbucks finds themselves in.
Either way though, right? The Siren Craft robotic brewing system seems like the way to solve many of the problems. So hopefully we'll see more about what this automated system ends up looking like and how it can facilitate both the orders that are coming in for mobile that are way behind schedule these days, and perhaps those in-store experiences too. But Ben, we'll give you the last word.
Oh, if I could make just one ask of the Starbucks team, look, the work they've done with digital is phenomenal. The app is phenomenal. The one drawback is that it's geolocated. So my Apple account, still domiciled back here in the UK, won't let me mobile order in the US stores. And you're such a second citizen if that happens. Now, the good news is quite often when I'm in the States, I get a burner and the first thing I do is download the Starbucks app and I've got an account. But without that, it's a really different experience. So yeah, look, if we could globally, one app to rule them all, Starbucks, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. I love the burner drop. I cannot wait to see how many burner phones you have on you next time I see you in the US.
Don't. Yeah, many.
All right, with Ben McNulty Miller from The Wire joining us today. Let's get to today's headlines, Ann. All right, today we've got news on hyperlocal pickup and drop-off in Atlanta, Best Buy's new mobile app design, age verification at self-checkout in, of all places, Germany, the possibility that JCPenney's could open up new stores. But we begin today with big restructuring news out of Walmart. And
All right, let's go to headline number one, Chris and Ben. Walmart is planning to cut jobs and asking its remote workers to return to the office. So, according to the Wall Street Journal, Walmart will be cutting hundreds of corporate jobs, and workers in small offices in Dallas, Atlanta, and Toronto are being asked to move to other central hubs like Walmart's corporate headquarters in Bentonville, Arkansas, as well as Hoboken, New Jersey, or Northern California. Walmart will also reportedly still allow staff to work remotely part of the time as long as they are in offices the majority of the time. Now, Ben, this is a topic we've been wanting to cover on Omni Talk for a while. This seems like an appropriate time to do it. What's your takeaway from what Walmart is now kind of being first to market to do here in the U.S.?
Yeah. So I promised you that I'd give shorter answers this time, but this is what I'm not sure. Look, I've got the 3 points I want to make on this one, and stop me at any point. Firstly, look, in any of these stories where it's there's actually humans being impacted, jobs at risk. So I've always had incredibly positive engagement with the Walmart tech team. So I just want to wish anybody who's received bad news out of this the best.
100%.
Second, we're recording this on Wednesday. Tomorrow, Walmart release their Q1 earnings, so it's really premature to kind of read anything performance-based into this. And for me, though, it is that reminder that retailers run on absolute razor-thin margins. And it's a constant, any good retail leader has to be constantly reviewing their resource base and resource optimization. So if you believe that Walmart has good leadership, which I think we do based on our previous conversations, then activities like this have to be expected. It echoes some work that was done last year when they closed tech hubs in Austin and Portland and in California. And let's not forget Walmart is currently building a brand new home office campus in Bentonville. So that's part of the mix. But I guess the third point I want to make, and this slightly begins to err into speculation because I don't have any insider information on all of Walmart's reasons behind this, but it does speak to some research that we did earlier in the year at Shop Talk, and we talked about in Vegas, which is about to be able to best satisfy and meet customer needs at the moment. You've got to unify your tech stack, you've got to unify your data, and you've got to unify your processes to best serve customers. We're coming out of this time when retailers have, through necessity and haste, they've bolted on new capabilities onto existing tech stacks. And Bain did a bit of work earlier this year where they found that rationalizing that tech stack now is the number one priority for 3/4 of retailer CIOs. So we reportedly hear that if you want to best serve shoppers in a seamless way, then having that unity, including unity in internal processes and structures, is super important. And bringing everyone together could be seen as part of that life. But as I say, that's speculation. But I do think it's very high on many retailers' priority lists at the moment.
Yeah. So you see this as a positive and really just getting those tech teams together to be able to collaborate and get products to market more thoroughly, to unify that process. And to do that, this is likely necessary.
Yeah, I think probably, without knowing the detail, I think that would be the positive rationale I would see for it.
Right. Chris, what's your takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, mine is similar, but I think I'd be maybe a little more strong or overt in my opinion on it. I think it's kind of a nothing burger to me, the story overall. I think it's just, a sign of good management, to Ben's point. It just feels like smart pruning to me is the word I would use. For example, anytime I see hundreds in these announcements, that's a lot better than thousands. And also it's a lot better than the ubiquitous 10% of the workforce, which is the most common thing you typically see when layoffs are a really big deal. So this just seems like a smart cutback. Now, again, of course, your hearts go out to the people that are, lose their jobs in this. But, at the end of the day, from a management perspective, it's probably just a good decision. I think the bigger part of the story to me, is actually the remote work side of things. And it seems to me like Walmart is settling in on I've thought a lot about this, and actually I had a lot of conversations at the Shop Talk in Vegas in March around dinner tables, around like how companies are dealing with this. This seems very much on people's minds. And Ben, your point about the tech stack and making it easier to do the work you need to do to create the systems that you need to thrive. It feels like there's really two options to me as I've thought about it over the last couple of months. You could either go fully remote, you could just do that, or you can just use managerial discretion. And you also have managerial discretion with the expectation that people are still in the office the majority of the time. And that seems like that's what Walmart's doing here. And I think that's the right way to go. That's probably what I would do. So I think it's better than staying half pregnant. I think, Ben, which is the point you're trying to make too, it's better than staying half pregnant here and not trying to solve the question and just having people in the office, but everyone else still be on Zoom all the time, right? That's what the situation that nobody wants. So that's my take. I think it's just smart.
Yeah, I think that it also plays into like kind of this humble brand ethos of Walmart that some of the other retailers I don't know that they have in the space. I mean, I think that you look at the Walmart, so what Walmart is doing with like store manager pay increases and like kind of trying to like level the playing field. Like there shouldn't be different rules necessarily for the HQ employees as there are for the store associate employees, especially when you get back to what Ben's talking about putting some of that new technology into place. I think it's imperative in these scenarios for people to be in the test stores and close to the test environment to get that feedback from the associates. And if those store managers are going to be, if you're requiring boots on the ground in your stores every day, I think Walmart as a company has this kind of we're all in it together ethos. And I think that the right way to do that is to have people on site. Now we'll see if that pays off in the long run. If it does, I think we'll start to see a lot of other retailers follow suit. But I think that Walmart, at the end of the day, made this decision because they believe that bringing those people together, still keeping some like people out on the coast to like stay in with all the technology, like major
their San Bruno
changes
office.
and innovation,
Yeah.
right? So like they're still keeping people in those environments to kind of get inspiration, but I think ultimately it's about bringing people together to like be one Walmart, and this is the way they think it's going to best take place. So
yeah,
time will tell.
it's a great point. Yeah, you know who can't work remote? The workers in your 4,600 plus stores. Right. And that's an important point you're making there. All right, headline number 2: Harbor Lockers has partnered with Relay, I believe it's Relay, it's RELAI, to launch exchange zones in Atlanta to empower people to drop off and pick up items hyper locally. According to a Harbor Lockers press release, exchange zones are convenient locations with secure compartments that let people pick up and drop off items asynchronously. And one area of focus for Harbor Lockers is to utilize exchange zones so that local retailers can offer an alternative pickup tool, giving shoppers greater flexibility to access items. Quote, leveraging Harbor for hyper-local access points is just one perfect example of how we can enable merchants, says W. Tad Jenkins, the general manager of Harbor. With our pay-per-use model, brands of all sizes are empowered to expand their reach, create unique customized experiences, streamline business operations, and increase sales. Open access networks are the future of commerce and customer engagement. End quote. A lot in that quote, Ben. Can't wait to get to this one. Atlanta, it should be noted, is the first large market to have such exchange zones. Ben, my question for you is this. This concept's been alive and well in Europe for some time now when you stop and you think about it. So what is your take on its pros and cons overall?
Yeah, I think for me, this is a real wait and see.
Okay.
So I like what Harbor's doing in terms of being able to democratize locker use. So, independent retailers, small brands, you don't have to have your own proprietary network to be able to offer this as a service. So look, that's definitely a pro. But for it to really be used to drive customer adoption, you've got to have scale. Yeah, for it to be worth merchants integrating it into their systems, putting it in their shops, or doing all the tech integration and having it as a credible offer, you need scale. So Harbor are talking about 25,000 lockers by the end of the year. That's roughly 1 or 2 per town in the US. Yeah, so actually talking about Atlanta, focusing on a metro area, building out a level of density as well as scale in a single geography feels the right thing to be doing. I guess the challenge is, you know, whilst collection from a locker is convenient, it's just not as convenient as having something dropped to your own home.
Mhm.
And increasingly, we saw lockers grow pre-pandemic, and then it stalled because some of the barriers for home delivery were removed, and it's not as convenient. But it's still a convenient route for many people who can't work from home, as we're talking about, or can't be in at regular hours, or haven't got the ability to drop. I think the bit that for me is interesting is returns.
Mhm.
Um, that Yeah, it's something you can already do for Amazon. You can return your product into an Amazon locker, but to be able to do that for a smaller independent brand could help you drive your confidence in making a purchase from that brand. If the ease of the return, if we're removing those ease of return barriers. So look, I can see the plus points. I can see for a mall owner or a C-store owner how having it in the store could drive some footfall, could be a positive. I think it is a lot of scale to make it work.
So you're
So
so you're kind of glass you're kind of glass half empty on this one, Ben. You're a little skeptical. I'm taking it you're a little skeptical on this over in the States.
I'm going European skepticism on this
Europe-
one, but I can see the logic. I can absolutely get the logic.
Yeah, the one thing, there's one word that I'm surprised you actually didn't say, given from where we're interviewing you today, and that's sustainability. So, Anne, I'm curious, what is your take on this story, and do you think sustainability in the long term plays into this discussion at all, too?
Yeah, I think sustainability absolutely plays into it. But I think that the key thing for this to work in the US is exactly what Ben hit on. It has to be convenient. You have to have these lockers in the places that people are going to day in and day out, gyms, grocery stores, C stores, hospitality tenants. Like they have to have it has to be in a place where I'm already going to make it better than getting that delivery to my house, and even to, let's be honest, to move the US to a more sustainable method of getting and returning packages. But the other part of this that I think I'd call attention to is that it also has to make sense for those businesses that you're putting these in front of. And I talked to Cleveron, based out of Estonia, yesterday, and they are saying that they see 20% of individuals who are coming inside a store to pick something up out of one of the lockers that they have deployed in Scandinavia and Europe are going in and buying other items from the store. So that to me is like that's the driver, what Ben's talking about, the more footfall in your store. Can you make this a value add for those retailers and hospitality companies, and at the same time make it more convenient for the consumer? That's what it's going to take for this to really take off, in my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I mean, I agree with both of you. I don't think I have much to add. I think, I'd say, if we're seeing this in Europe, we won't see it for at least 10 years in the US. That's my facetious, sarcastic take on the whole thing. And, at the end of the day, like the economics of it are good for the retailer because they get the consolidated drop off point and the return pickup point. So that's good. And there are the sustainability angles, which long term, if you can get enough people around and behind this idea, that's also advantageous. But you're right. It's going to be a scale game. They're gonna have to be really smart about where they place these to start to get people to use them, because I mean, for the Americans, the other thing I'd say about Americans is, generally speaking, and I don't want to offend anybody, but we like things to just come to us pretty easily, I think, is probably the nice way to say it. So I think Ben's point about, it's just easier to get a delivery is one you got to think about.
All right, let's go on to headline number 3. Best Buy has rolled out new features in its mobile app. According to a Best Buy press release, Best Buy is introducing a series of updates to its mobile app aimed at providing customers with a more personalized and engaging shopping experience. These updates leverage technologies such as AI to tailor the app's content to each individual user's preferences, shopping history, and membership status. Some of the key updates include a personalized home screen powered by AI to deliver a unique shopping experience for each user based on their interests and technology journey, a Discover tab to encourage users to explore a wide range of tech products and seasonal assortments through personalized recommendations, live tracking, digital wallet updates, and fifth and finally, personalized push notifications and a new navigation bar. Now, you guys, this is also where A&M wants to come in and put you both on the spot. They want to know they say personalized content tailored to shopper preferences and browsing history, like in Best Buy's app update, can significantly increase the likelihood of making a sale. True. However, in a market where consumers are increasingly watching their spend and looking for the most competitive prices across retailers, how can Best Buy incentivize customers to shop direct on their app versus using search engine based shopping for real time price comparisons? So, Ben, we're going to you first. I'm putting you on the spot. A&M's putting you on the spot. What do you think? How can Best Buy get people to use this brand new app?
Yeah. Okay. Cards on the table. I love this.
You do.
I love this. Love this. Like in isolation, each element is something you've seen before, but I love how Best Buy are bringing it together. Look, I'm currently obsessed with like the shopper journey and how it's being fundamentally disrupted and the opportunities that creates, because to answer to come at the A&M question from a different perspective, it's if you're only competing against on price, then you've literally got one card to play. So what Best Buy is saying is we're going to try and generate demand for a whole different suite of other routes, and we're going to do it based on what we're seeing customer preferences more broadly. And I've got some new research that I'm bringing to Barcelona in a couple of weeks' time on this. I love seeing this. So firstly, you've got AI. Chris, you and I have talked on stage before about how AI has the potential to fundamentally shift CX and UX. You're much more eloquent than I am, so I'm not going to go any more on that. I'm really looking forward to hear what you have to say on this one. But it talks to that conversation. For me, just when we look at the various tricks and tactics that are out there to try and generate demand through other things just from price, it ticks those boxes. So when you look at the app, you've got a section for limited time drops. Brilliant. Drive excitement, drive spontaneity. There's some gamification in there. Brilliant engagement. You've got short form video. You've got tech integration. You've got consultation with Best Buy experts. So you've got that stickiness, and you're bringing people into your app through reasons other than just want to buy. It's got loyalty integration. It knows your prior purchases. It can support you with accessories. It's personalized. It's got loads of the little tools and techniques that we're seeing becoming increasingly common. It's bringing them into one place. So look, for me, it's congratulations, Best Buy. Look, I haven't got my hands on it yet, but from what I've seen, I think it looks great.
All right, Chris, where do you fall?
Well, yeah, I mean, thanks, Ben, for that comment on my eloquence too. That was nice. I appreciate that. But for me, I mean, I think there's a couple points I'd make on this, and I think I generally speaking agree with Ben. I think on the surface, and you and I were on the app together yesterday, and we were looking at it. On the surface, it doesn't look like, or maybe it even doesn't sound like much from what you read, Ann. But I would argue, having tried to do this at companies and even tried to do web updates on Omni Talk, that's kind of the beauty of it too, because those things are really hard to do well, where you're not feeling them as the consumer. And I didn't feel them at all. So they were very subtle. And so that's what I really like about it. And that's what Best Buy, generally speaking, is the best, quote unquote, and pun very much intended. That's what Best Buy is the best at doing. They get in front of technological change so they aren't left behind. Yes. And there's 2 points I would make in that regard. So Ben, you mentioned AI. 100%. This is like foundational. It's setting the table for them to deploy different things, likely using generative AI in the future as they think about how the user interface is going to evolve. So can they use generative AI for search? Can they use generative AI to serve up content? That's where this is going. That's why they're doing this. That's why, again, they're ahead of this, because I haven't seen this from other people. And then the last point, which I think is really interesting, is they're also trying to capitalize on the increasing flexibility and new ways to conduct payments via online interfaces. That's something we haven't talked about as much on this show comparatively to generative AI, but I think we're going to start, because I had a really interesting conversation with a company called Skipify this week. And what they showed me in terms of how user interfaces for payments are changing on our e-commerce platforms to make them quicker, faster, to self-identify us, to make fraud less likely. That space is really heating up too. And so I think Best Buy is getting in front of that as well. At least that'd be my estimation, or at least I hope that's what they're doing here.
Yeah, I think that's an important point to hit on too in answering A&M's question, is that that, as they continue to bring in some of the tools, even OpenAI just, they launched their new set of tools. I'm not sure if that's
Yeah.
what Best Buy is using to bring in the AI features that they're talking about in this app or not. But I mean, I think it's only going to get better, and especially Best Buy isn't, dumb. They know that price comparison is going to be a key component to any decision making that their customers are doing. And so what I think is so brilliant about this is, like, as the AI gets better, it can serve up price comparisons from other retailers to make sure that as a consumer, I know that I'm getting the best price at Best Buy. And on top of that, I'm getting the order tracking. I'm getting like customized experiences. Like, that's the reason to go to the Best Buy app. And I think that's the foundation that they're laying here right now, is that, daily use. Like, I'm going to start going to Best Buy for all of my things. Is going to be my first place, my first destination, because the experience is so solid and so personalized. So I think it's a great move here, and kudos to that Best Buy team, Chris, for all the reasons that you were saying. This is not an easy feat.
That's a great point too, Anne, especially when you talk about service on big ticket, high price electronic
For
items.
sure.
Knowing when you're going to get something is incredibly, incredibly important. And so, and of course, you always have the price match guarantee in the background too, which if you've done
Right.
that well, it shouldn't be a concern to begin with. So, all right, headline number 4. This one's a fun one. Automatic age verification has come to self-checkout in Germany. According to Retail Dive, a 24/7 store at the Stuttgart airport in Germany is piloting Diebold Nixdorf's Vynamic Smart Vision age verification solution to allow for the purchase of age-restricted items via self-checkout. When customers scan a restricted item, such as alcohol, their faces can be analyzed with a camera on the machine and an AI algorithm to see if it sees the customer is old enough for the purchase. Or said another way, with the Vynamic Smart Vision system, a camera installed in the kiosk analyzes a customer's facial characteristics to see if they meet a, quote, predefined threshold. If so, the purchase process continues. If not, a staff member manually checks the identification of any customers who get flagged by the system or choose to opt out. And I'm going to go to you on this one first. Das is good, yeah?
Yeah, I love this one. I think it's amazing. I mean, we recently spoke at a conference and somebody asked us, Chris, do you remember this? They're like, we were talking about Amazon Go, or we were talking about the technology inside the stadium at the Seahawks. And they were talking about, is this the best like method to do it? And how are you handling age verification? And so I think, while this doesn't completely eliminate the manual process involved, I think that it's 80% of the time it's getting it right. So it's more convenient for the customers, and especially more convenient for the operators that are trying to do multiple tasks within that one small store. So I think this is great. Like, this, we should keep going, keep pushing forward with this.
So net, you like it. You think we should see this over in the US then? You do. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Oh man, I almost lost it on that one because Ben, you were dying in the background after I did that. So yeah, sorry for everyone for my horrible German accent there. But Ann, you're a trooper for hanging in there. Ben, what do you think? Do you agree with Ann? I'm a little skeptical on whether we'll see this in the US, but I'm curious what your take is. And why are we seeing this in Germany of all places? Germany has like the highest privacy standards in the world, and yet
because if you can do it in Germany, you can do it anywhere. That's the point, right? You got to pressure test this in Germany.
Look, it's a story that just pleases me.
It does.
It does, and I'll tell you why it pleases me. Because when it's done well, self-checkout is genuinely additive to the customer experience. So look, we know from research that it's not for everyone, but there's a really big group of shoppers that find it the quickest, most efficient, most pleasurable way to leave a store. But yet, we feel like we've had a year where there's been nothing but negative news stories about self-checkout. And a lot of that's been driven by shrink and theft. And some has just been sort of emotional backlash against it as a principle. And I'm really pleased. What pleases me is to see a story about investment and innovation, from Diebold Nixdorf. Look, I think they're doing it in Germany because it's in their backyard.
Yeah,
they're investing in it because they're a self-checkout company, so it's in their interest. But it focuses on removing this customer pain point. And in Europe, the privacy and data protection laws through something called GDPR really limits what's possible with facial recognition. So to be able to develop a solution that works in that to comply with it is a real positive. We've seen some other similar experiments. So just yesterday, I was posted on LinkedIn about a Zabka store in Poland that's using similar technology in its autonomous stores to be able to enable shoppers to buy highly caffeinated energy drinks, which again are age limited, and there's a thing of that. So look, it makes sense. I use self-checkout all the time.
Yeah.
I'm in my mid-40s. Every time I try and check out, try and buy a bottle of wine, somebody has to come over and say that I'm over 18. A computer can see that really easily. So, with the right checks and balances and proper oversight, you're just removing an unnecessary task from the store staff so they can get on with doing the higher value things. You're making the whole experience better. So for me, it's like, bravo, Adika. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for giving us a good news story on self-checkout.
Wow. Okay. So you guys are generally positive on this. I mean, I think I like the concept. Like, I'd love to just walk up to a self-checkout machine and have it know that I'm old as, getting old as dirt and gray and everything. But I don't know. I just don't see it coming over here in the States at all. I think there's such a kerfuffle around so many lawsuits around facial recognitions and its use. And the zeitgeist around privacy is so different over in Europe than it is in the States that I just see America having a tough time with this. I mean, we can't even get people on board with like just walk out technology or even just computer vision at the self-checkout monitoring things for theft, So like, doing this for facial ID scanning every single person at the self-checkout that goes through it seems like a bridge too far for me for the States, but I don't know, time will tell, it depends.
Maybe we need more of it at the airports. Once the airports fully adopt
Good
it
call.
and start getting people more confirmed, like we
Yeah.
see, it's so rare that that's
It's already
happening. But
happening.
I think
Yeah.
like once people start to get more comfortable with it and realize like I can get in and out and get this bottle of wine in a minute rather than, waiting again in line, even in a checkout free store. I think it's those kinds of things that take this adoption to the next level.
Right. 100%.
And I think as long as you program in optionality, do you want to have this done now with the cameras already built in, for the software upgrade, or do you want to wait for?
Oh, that's interesting too.
You can
which is what Zippin does.
You.
Yeah. And,
exactly.
and Amazon One Palm too. Like you can put your information in there so you don't have to be stopped at all. It's like, that's a great point, Ben. Great point to end on.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to headline number 5. JCPenney has continued to remain profitable and could even open new stores. According to Retail Dive again, JCPenney's Q4 net sales dropped 5.9% year over year to $2.3 billion, as net income in the quarter fell 8.9% to $41 million. For the full year, net sales, not including credit cards, fell 8.9% to $6.9 billion, as net income plunged from 86.4% from last year's $221 million. Consolidated EBITDA dropped 39.3% to $316 million. I hope you were all taking notes because that was a lot of numbers all thrown into just one part of the story. Yet this week, Simon Property Group CEO David Simon said that JCPenney could benefit from opening new stores in light of its ongoing profitability. Chris, I'm going to go to you first here. What smoke is David Simon cracking? You wrote this setup for yourself.
I did. So for those that want to know how the sausage is made, sometimes I write things to see if Ann will actually say them. So yes, Ann, the question is, what smoke is David Simon cracking? Well done, my friend. I don't actually think he's smoking any crack, Ann.
That's good.
I think
he's got a lot of people's like futures in his hands. So let's just keep off the crack, David.
He's been
Simon.
a very successful guy. Who might have comment on his weekend or evening or daytime habits? I don't know,
boy.
but
please don't tell me I'm on the episode where the writ gets given. That's
but I mean, I think the continued profitability to me is the key point here is that they are continually profitable, and that is a sign to me of good management. And their two primary leaders, Mark Rosen, the CEO, and Michelle Laszlo, the chief merchant, are two people that I have a ton of respect for. And Rose, and I've said this on previous podcasts, I think like maybe 6 to 9 months ago, Rosen particularly understands digital. He was the former chief digital officer at Levi's. He isn't a mainline merchant like what Macy's has put into position for the past 2 succession plans. And for that reason, I think JCPenney's could find a continued avenue for further profitable growth with new stores. And the new stores also give Rosen a way to experiment free from the handcuffs of the traditional JCPenney's stores that are difficult, as we've talked about on the show many times, difficult to re-architect, for the same reasons Ben alluded to with Walmart. Like, it's hard to rejigger things that already exist. It's much easier to build from the ground up. So there's a way to experiment with what the JCPenney's of the future could be without being saddled with the existing box. So now redefining the department store is a difficult task, if not an impossible one, but a well-managed omni-channel design of it could still throw off a lot of cash in the years to come. So I think that's what David Simon is getting at here. And that's why I think there's something to this story that is different than what we typically talk about in the department store industry here in the States.
Ugh, I don't know. Ben, you got to weigh in here because
you're going to trash me?
I'm not going to trash you. I think your points are valid. I still have a very big problem with JCPenney's digital presence and how they're getting the next generation in. Like Mark, great digital
issue.
merchant.
Yeah.
Generational. Like, I think,
yeah.
All right, Ben, I'm going to go, and then I'll go to you for the last word. Apparently, I might as well just get this out.
Keep going.
Yeah, do it. Go ahead. Go. You're on a roll.
If you look at JCPenney's social presence, you look at their website, you look at all the other properties that are out there that are driving TikTok channels, like all the other things that are driving people into stores are severely lacking when you look at competitors, even like Kohl's or Macy's in this case. And I think that the Macy's Bloomingdale's angle, and based on like how they're talking to this next generation of consumer that has to continue this very slight increase in sales that JCPenney is seeing, or maintenance of sales that they're seeing, because they're not going to be relevant to that next consumer. And so that's what I think. Like, yes, foundationally, you probably are in the black right now, but I don't know how long that you can sustain that, because you need something to drive people to these new stores. And I think once they get there, if they're just seeing the same old JCPenney product and the same JCPenney, like, meh kind of experience there, just with like some new fixtures, I don't think there's a reason for them to come back. And there's certainly not like an omni-channel reason for them to come back. And so I think that's where the real problem is. I think they're just like kind of coasting right now at the moment. But Ben, we'll give you the last word here. Where do you weigh in? JCPenney, yes or no?
I think I really agree with a lot of what you're saying, and because it gets to the key question, which is, where's the relevancy for the brand, and how is the turnaround story post bankruptcy going? Mm-hmm. So what are the fundamentals that have changed under new ownership, private company, new leadership, that will give us some signposts that yes, JCPenney's on the right track? Look, I don't think you get any of those signs from the headline. So the headline says two things. One is we're profitable when net income was down 86%.
And they closed a bunch of stores too. Like, that's the other thing too, that no one's factoring into this too. Like, they're still feeling the after effects of that. But yes, continue.
And then the second point was we might open some new stores. And I've got a load of respect for Simon Property Group. And I think some of the digital things, some of the miles they operate is great. But I'm not buying, Property Group says one of our portfolio companies might open more property.
That's, right. Fair point, Ben. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Yes. So
look, it's all off the back. The story's off the back of their SEC findings. So I dug a little bit into the filing. See,
did you?
Is there stuff in there that shows us, that gives some evidence points that the world's improving? Look, the sales decline is less than it was in Q4 than across the rest of the year. Okay, still down 5.9%, but better. There is some commentary around cash that says customer traffic is improving, but no data against it, but that could be a good sign. I mean, the big thing in the filing is cash flow. The cash position is much better, and it looks like that's due to better inventory when you look into the numbers. So if they're managing the inventory better, that's a really positive sign that they're potentially running the business better. So look, I'm searching for scraps. I'm looking for glimmers. The big picture it continues to be, where is the relevancy story and what's changed? But there might be some little things that say that the new leadership is making some positive improvements. But I'd love to hear a lot more from them on this to understand the story.
Yeah. And my final point, if I can rebut the two of you, since you were vociferously against my opinion, the two of you, I think that's actually why you need a new store. I think your point about reaching the new generations is why you need a new store. You need the ability to create something, craft something in a locality that you can understand if it resonates with them. That's an important step that has to happen.
But the new
so
store needs to look better than the new store that they just put out. Like, they need to keep evolving on that new store format. I think that's right. But the one that they just opened in New Jersey, like, it's just...
Well, and that one was probably in the works well before those folks got
Sure.
there, when you think about how long it takes to build a new store too.
Sure.
So like, you know, from the conception of this leadership team, yes, 100%. They need that. I think they need that opportunity to show what they've got.
Yeah. All right. Let's
should we
move
close
on
this
to
up?
the lightning round.
All right.
Yes.
Can't wait for this.
All right. Ben, first question. Chevrolet is discontinuing the Chevy Malibu, also the first car of many a teenager in my day. Ben, I want to know, what was the make and model of your first car?
Oh, so look, I drive an American car now, but my first car was French. It was a dark blue little Peugeot 205.
Peugeot.
Exactly.
Nice. I was hoping you're gonna go Peugeot or Seat. You went Peugeot. That's awesome.
How old were you, Ben, when you got your first car?
I was 17.
Okay.
Nice.
So just a couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago, right? Yes. A couple of years ago. You already dropped it. You're in your mid-40s, but yeah, a couple of years ago. All right. An alligator was recently spotted in line at a Florida Starbucks drive-thru. Ben, what is the craziest thing you have ever seen or done in a drive-thru?
Yeah, I haven't seen any other animals in a drive-thru, but you may have seen, there was a brilliant video that went round about a herring gull on the south coast of the UK that figured out that it could walk up to the front door of a convenience store and make the sensors open the doors. And the other side of the doors was the pre-packed sandwich fixture. So it would walk up, open the door, go in, grab a sandwich, and fly out. It's
That's
genius.
Awesome.
Absolutely genius.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, smart birds. All right, let's go into question number 3. Amazon is launching its first micro hub in Northern Ireland, which will allow Belfast residents to receive packages by electric bike delivery. Ben, if you were one of these electric bike delivery drivers, what are 3 things you'd want to have on your person at all times in Belfast to successfully execute your job day to day?
Okay. Number 1, the ability to recharge that bike. So
Good
don't
call.
forget your charger.
Those things are heavy, especially with packages in tow. Yes.
Number 2, puncture repair kit. Don't go anywhere on a bike without a puncture repair kit. And 3, with all due respect, don't go anywhere in Belfast without a waterproof. So that would be my 3.
It rains a lot in Belfast. That's what you're telling me.
It rains a lot in Belfast.
All right, awesome.
Cracking place, very wet.
All right, Ben, this last one I designed specifically for you, knowing that you were going to join us. So a 34-year-old woman was found living in a Michigan Family Fare supermarket's rooftop sign, and inside her compact space where she lived for roughly a year was a mini desk, flooring, clothing, a pantry of food, a printer, and even a houseplant. Ben, what retailer would you most want to live inside of for 1 year? And please, please factor in every aspect of Maslow's hierarchy of needs into your answer.
I think if I ever found myself in the unfortunate position of being homeless and requiring a retail establishment to live in, I think for me there's only one answer, and that has to be the European UK store of RH. Restoration Hardware's European store. I don't know if you've seen it. They basically bought a stately home in Oxfordshire. The furniture's amazing. It's huge. The cafe and the restaurant is beautiful in there. You'd be fed, watered in beautiful Oxfordshire countryside. So yeah, that's where I'd head.
Ben Miller for the win. I thought the right answer was IKEA, but yes, you upped it. Oh my God, you went palatial on us. RH, good call. Ben Miller for the win. Well, happy birthday today to Judd Hirsch, Eva Longoria. It's the man who I saw belt out every rose has its thorn like it was still 1988, despite the obvious wig underneath his bandana. The uber talented Brett Michaels. And remember, if you can only read or listen to one retail blog in the business, make it Omni Talk, the only retail media outlet run by two former executives from a current top 10 U.S. retailer. Our Fast Five podcast is the quickest, fastest rundown of all the week's top news, and our daily newsletter, the Retail Daily Minute, tells you all you need to know each day to stay on top of your game as a retail executive, and also regularly features special content that is exclusive to us and that Ann and I take a ton of pride in doing just for you. Thanks as always for listening in. Please remember to like and leave us a review wherever you happen to listen to your podcast or on YouTube. You can follow us today by simply going to youtube.com/OmniTalkRetail.
And Ben, if people want to know more about Shop Talk Europe or they want to get information or sign up, where should they do that?
Thank you, and just head straight to shoptalkeurope.com. Our last few tickets are there. We've got an amazing show. We're looking forward to seeing you both in Barcelona, and I hope lots of people will be able to join us. So shoptalkeurope.com for the last tickets.
So until next week, on behalf of all of us at Omni Talk Retail, as always, be careful out there.
The Omni Talk Fast Five is brought to you in association with the A&M Consumer and Retail Group. The A&M Consumer and Retail Group is a management consulting firm that tackles the most complex challenges and advances its clients, people, and communities toward their maximum potential. CRG brings the experience, tools, and operator-like pragmatism to help retailers and consumer products companies be on the right side of disruption. And Avalara. Avalara makes tax compliance faster, easier, more accurate, and more reliable for 30,000 plus business and government customers in over 90 countries. Avalara leverages 1,200 plus signed partner integrations to power tax calculations, document management, tax return filing, and tax content access. Visit avalara.com to improve your compliance journey. And Wiliot. Wiliot's ambient IoT visibility platform, powered by battery-free Bluetooth tags, eliminates scanning for real-time end-to-end inventory visibility. For more information, head to wiliot.com/OmniTalk. And TGW. Revolutionize your grocery supply chain with TGW. Their experts tailor automation solutions to your needs, ensuring you have the edge. Work with TGW before your competition does. Discover more at tgw-group.com. And Sezzle. Sezzle is an innovative buy now, pay later solution that allows shoppers to split purchases into 4 interest-free payments over 6 weeks. To learn more, visit Sezzle.com.